Hey YouTube, Mactics here. Let's cut to the chase. Witch Queen is here, and with it comes Void 3.0. I had a full day to play the Become Legend campaign and various other activities on Void 3.0 Hunter, and to test out all of the different aspects and fragments that shipped with the expansion. Today I'm going to give you my first impressions on, well, everything. We're going to touch on what has changed at a base ability level, then all of the aspects and their respective gameplay loops, as well as all of the fragments that have shipped with the game, as well as all the fragments that we will receive after the world's first raid race on March 5th. Twitch.tv/Mactics, by the way, if you want to watch my team compete for first. All of these chapters will be with Omnioculus in mind, but I also want to include a chapter about what the gameplay loop looks like with other invisibility exotics, as well as touch on a hidden buff that Omnioculus received. Sort of. After that, we will talk about the new playstyle and my overall thoughts on the new Hunter toolkit. And if you make it through the whole video, I'll show you my fashion layout at the very end since everyone always asks. And before people freak out, let me give you a disclaimer. Omnioculus Hunter lost some things and it gained some things, and I can't definitively say that it is worse or better than it was previously. It's just different. It does some things better than before, and some things worse than before. Hunters are still very much alive though with Void 3.0 and feel plenty strong in my opinion, so there's no need to jump ship to Team Warlock just yet. And before we start, I do want to touch on two things. First up is a new exclusive emblem that you can obtain called Long Live the Queen, which I am officially dubbing the Omnioculus Hunter emblem. I mean, come on, just look at it. You can obtain this emblem by going to Bungie.net and linking your Twitch account to your Bungie profile and gifting 2 subscriptions to my Twitch channel while I'm live every weekday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at twitch.tv/Mactics. Go over there and type hi from YouTube in the chat if you're coming over there from this video. The second thing is that this is my first impressions video of Void 3.0 on Hunter. I have had less than 24 hours to play around with it, so surely there is a lot left to learn, and I intend to make a fully revamped Omnioculus guide once I have had enough time to flesh out the class. Make sure to subscribe to the channel to be able to see that video when it does release. But I did want to get a first thoughts video out as soon as possible, not only because you guys have been coming to my stream to ask me what aspects and fragments I am using, but also to guide you in the right direction for those trying to build craft their perfect hunter for the Legend campaign and the Day 1 raid. So, starting with the base abilities, Mobius Quiver was hitting like a truck for me in the Legend campaign. I've not been able to test how its damage numbers compare to other one-shot supers like Blade Barrage and Nova Bomb, but it felt way more potent from a damage perspective than it did in 2.0. I believe one of the primary reasons for this is that you can fire it off so much more quickly. In 2.0, you had to fire it 6 times to land 6 shots, whereas in 3.0, you only need to fire it twice to land 6 shots. So our Mobius Tether effectively tripled its fire rate, which in turn will obviously triple its DPS. It also applies volatile to targets, which means its ad clear capabilities are pretty spectacular as well. As for Deadfall, I wasn't as impressed with this one. Any hope of using this as a debuff tool is null and void while Divinity exists, and for ad clearing, Mobius just does a better job. Could be good for solo play, but I don't see this being used in raids for the moment. As for our other abilities, our melee charge is now a snare bomb which sticks to surfaces and weakens enemies, and our vortex grenade now pulls enemies into it like a Duskfield grenade. As far as the things we lost, allow me to present an analogy. Imagine a long broadsword that you use to whack down your adversaries, and imagine that long broadsword has a neat little Skittles dispenser on the hilt. That Skittles dispenser is heart of the pack. It's awesome, like who doesn't want to pop some Skittles into their hand mid-sword fight? But if you take away that Skittles dispenser, the sword is still a frickin' sword, and will perform as such. The point is, Heart of the Pack wasn't essential to the Void Hunter gameplay loop, simply an added benefit, and although it is gone, it doesn't really change anything fundamental about the class. Now take that same sword and replace the steel blade with a pool noodle. That's what losing combat provision looks like. Undoubtedly, the biggest thing with 3.0 has been the loss of grenade energy return when making allies invisible, and it is still taking me time to get used to, and I'm not going to lie to you, it sucks. Previously, continuously smoking allies to refund smoke energy was a staple of the playstyle, but now there is no reason to smoke allies unless you are looking to make them invisible in that moment. Keyword there, though, is allies. Smoking enemies is one of the many new tricks we gained, so let's talk about them. Starting with the aspect we knew we would be rocking in Void 3.0, we have Trapper's Ambush, giving us 1 fragment slot. This aspect allows snare bombs to additionally create a smoke cloud that makes allies invisible. Additionally, we can use Quickfall, aka Void Shatter Dive, to use a melee charge to dive to the ground with a smoke bomb, generating all of the same invisibility and weakening effects. Now, a lot has changed with the smoke bombs that I did not expect at all. First and foremost, the smoke cloud that makes allies invisible comes from the smoke bomb significantly more quickly than the previous smoke bomb detonated. This is a good and a bad thing. The good is that you can panic smoke way more easily as the invisibility is almost instant. The bad is that because the invisibility activates so much more quickly, part of the grace period, that 1 second time period where you can do anything without being removed from invisibility after going invisible, is now eaten up by your guardian, finishing the animation of the smoke bomb throw. This means things like shooting a rocket during the grace period are no longer possible. Don't worry though, the most important utilization of the grace period, throwing your grenade, is still possible. You just have less time to chuck it before that grace period ends, so you'll need to pre-plan where that grenade is going a little bit better. Another bad side of this is that it's not really possible to throw a smoke bomb while in the air and fall into it to gain invisibility anymore. If you want to get invisibility while airborne, you will have to use the new quick fall ability. Next up was a change that I didn't expect, but that I love. When you throw a smoke bomb down, the invisibility field activates instantly, but the snare bomb itself remains on the field for an enemy to walk into it and blow it up. As a result, you can effectively leave booby traps around the field as you are making yourself invisible that will weaken enemies when they come into contact with them. And finally, the base invisibility timers have been adjusted. The smoke bomb charge now only makes you invisible for 6 seconds as opposed to the previous 7, but can have its timer increase with a specific fragment, so no worries there. The more interesting thing to me is that when you go invisible with the quick fall ability, you actually get a bonus 2 seconds on invisibility, with a base invisibility of 8 seconds versus the throwable smokes 6. The next aspect we have to talk about is Vanishing Step, granting us 2 fragment slots and making us invisible from our dodge. This invisibility timer is the same as the new throwable smoke timer with a base invis time of 6 seconds, increasable with a specific fragment. And finally, we have Stylish Executioner, where killing void debuffed enemies grants invisibility and allows our next melee attack to weaken enemies. So, what aspects are we using? I ran the entire Legend campaign with Trapper's Ambush and Stylish Executioner, and later swapped out Executioner to Vanishing Step to see how it played. Obviously, Trapper's Ambush is a must-have, but I'm split between the second option. My original thought was that Stylish Executioner would be the go-to, as it synergizes so well with granting invisibility from defeating enemies that we can weaken with our snare bombs, but I found the secondary part of it to be completely useless in practice. Why would I ever want to run up to an enemy and melee them to weaken them while taking myself out of invisibility, when I can just throw a smoke bomb at them from a distance to weaken them at literally any point in time? Vanishing Step, on the other hand, felt wonky to use at first, as I am so used to throwing a smoke bomb to make myself invisible, then immediately dodging afterwards to refund it with Gambler's Dodge, but with your smokes making you invis and your dodge doing the same thing and refunding a smoke, keeping 100% uptime on invisibility was incredibly easy even without using my grenade or picking up elemental wells. Perhaps I will spec Vanishing Step for solo play and opt for Stylish Executioner for team activities like raids where I might have Warlocks with Child of the Old Gods, debuffing everything for me to kill and go invisible off of, but for now I highly recommend that you use and get a feel for both and figure out the strengths and weaknesses of each. And please tweet at me or stop by my live stream to let me know what you think about these aspects and which ones are better for which situations. Aspects are only half the battle though. For the other half, it's time we turn to Fragments. A lot of fragments shipped with Witch Queen, with 4 behind lock and key until the world's first raid race is complete. Remembering that we get 3 total fragment slots, 1 from Trapper's Ambush and 2 from either Vanishing Step or Stylish Executioner, let's talk about how they all relate to Void Hunter. First, we have Echo of Expulsion, where Void ability final blows cause targets to explode with a 10 intellect bonus. This fragment could be useful if we were able to still refund our grenades and have a lot of grenade uptime, but we don't anymore, so I don't really see myself using it. Next is Echo of Provision, where damaging targets with grenades grants melee energy with a 10 strength penalty. This guy has been sitting in my first fragment slot for obvious reasons. We already lost half of combat provision, and I don't really want to give up the other half just yet. After that is Echo of Exchange, where melee final blows grant grenade energy, and this isn't helping us too much as our smoke bombs are used for weakening and invising, not necessarily for delivering killing blows. After that is Echo of Remnants, where your lingering grenade effects, such as Vortex Grenade, have increased duration, and this has been in my second slot for the entirety of my Witch Queen adventure. However, when I tested the numbers on it, it looks like it only takes my Vortex Grenade from 4 seconds to 6 seconds. Not entirely sure if that is worth it, and I might consider using a different fragment in its place. Perhaps a different grenade entirely would make this fragment worthwhile as well. Moving on, we have Echo of Reprisal, where final blows when surrounded by combatants grant super energy. And we don't really care about super energy that much, so I'll be sitting this one out. After that is Echo of Undermining, where void grenades weaken targets with a 20 discipline penalty. And this fragment could replace Echo of Remnants, however, I'm hesitant to use any fragment that revolves around our grenade since we don't have any effective way to get it back other than just waiting, so I'm still up in the air on this one. Echo of Persistence makes it so that our void buffs applied to us, such as invisibility, have increased duration with a 10 mobility penalty, and this fragment is obviously a must-have. Looking at invisibility alone, it takes our throwable smoke and vanishing step invisibility from 6 seconds to 8 seconds, and our quick fall dive smoke from 8 seconds to 10 seconds. After that is Echo of Leeching, where melee final blows start health regeneration for you and nearby allies with a 10 resilience bonus, and again, we're not killing things with melee, so this one is not very useful for us. Next on the table is Echo of Domineering, where after suppressing a target, you gain, and we'll stop right there. We're not suppressing anything unless we have Suppression Grenade, which we're not going to run, so we're passing on this. After that is Echo of Dilation, where while crouched you sneak faster and gain enhanced radar resolution with a 10 mobility and intellect bonus, which is effectively Keen Scout, which doesn't have much use in PvE other than farming for chests, so obviously this one is not going to take a slot. And finally, we have our 4 fragments that are behind closed doors until the Witch Queen World's first race. Echo of Instability, where defeating targets with grenades grants volatile rounds to your void weapons with a 10 strength bonus. And as mentioned before, I'm hesitant to use fragments that revolve around grenades since we have no way to restore ours, but this one could potentially be good, so I'll keep an eye on it after the world's first race. After that is Echo of Harvest, where defeating weakened targets with precision final blows will create an Orb of Power with a 10 intellect penalty. And once again, Orbs of Power aren't too useful for us since we care more about our invisibility and smokes than we do about our super. After that is Echo of Obscurity, where finisher final blows grant invisibility with a 10 recovery bonus. We can already do invis finishers with our smoke bombs, so this one is kind of pointless for us. And finally, we have Echo of Starvation, where picking up an Orb of Power grants Devour with a 10 recovery penalty. And I don't see this being too useful on Hunters since we are invisible 99% of the time and have damage resistance during that entire time as well, which is plenty of time to stay healthy and regenerate our health. So that's all the fragments. Like I said, I'm currently sporting Provision, Remnants, and Persistence. Persistence is a must-have and always will be in my opinion. Provision is nice for keeping high smoke bomb uptime and bringing forth half of combat provision. But the last one I have been running, Remnants, I'm not super sold on. A 2-second grenade increase doesn't feel insane, and I'm curious if something like Undermining to weaken targets with grenades could potentially feel better. Running that fragment would also synergize with Stylish Executioner exceptionally well, yet at the same time, our smoke bombs already weaken, so is it a waste to also use a fragment slot to allow our grenades to weaken as well? In a tunnel, the answer seems like it would be yes, but when I was playing, I found myself always using my smoke bombs on myself and my allies to make us invisible versus using them to debuff enemies. Maybe I just need to get in with my quick fall more often to get the best of both worlds? I don't know. I need more time with this one. Same as with the aspects, play around with the fragments and let me know what you find and what works best for you. On to exotics. Gonna keep this one short and sweet for you. Orpheus Rigs grant an additional Tether Barrage for Mobius Quiver. If this super does stand up in the damage category to other burst supers, this could potentially be a Nighthawk competitor. I don't know though yet, that's a lot of testing that needs to be done, but just keep your eye out. Graviton Forfeit makes infinite invisibility child's play when running it with Trapper's Ambush and Vanishing Step, and I can see this exotic being incredibly powerful for solo activities like solo flawless dungeons. And finally, Omnioculus, and this thing is still kicking hard, but a recent nerf to the Protective Light mod is going to see it sitting alone at the top of the damage resistance category. Previously, Protective Light granted resist ×4 when your shields were broken while you were charged with light, which is equal to 50% damage resistance. With the Witch Queen patch, Bungie nerfed this down to 10% damage resistance. Omnioculus, however, still gives that 50% damage resistance, and not just that, it grants it during invisibility, not just when your shield pops. This exotic is now the undisputed king of on-demand damage resistance, and I see that being insanely useful for both you and your teammates in contest mode Void activities like Grandmaster Nightfalls and the upcoming Day 1 raid. Moving on to playstyle, we have two massive changes, one good and one bad. The bad is that we lost access to combat provision and no longer have access to infinitely refreshing grenades. This means that landing our grenades to regen smoke bombs is much more valuable than before, and also means that a high discipline stat is now more important than a high strength stat. As of now, I recommend your stats to go 10 mobility, 7 recovery, then max out discipline as best you can, and everything after that goes into strength, then intellect, then resilience. Additionally, this means your smoke bombs are only ever used to make people invisible or to weaken enemies, never to get your grenade back. The good change is the fact that infinitely looping invisibility is actually easier now thanks to either Vanishing Step or Stylish Executioner. This gives us the opportunity to weave in and out of invisibility a lot more frequently than before, which can actually make us even more threatening. Mastering your cooldowns will result in a gameplay loop where you can use your smoke charges to weaken enemies just as much as you use them to smoke yourself and allies. With more ways to make ourselves invisible, we don't always need to do it with a smoke, allowing us to use them for other things. Additionally, with Quickfall paired with the Echo Persistence Fragment, we can get 10 seconds of invisibility per smoke bomb, which is higher than smoke bombs ever were in Void 2.0. We can also use Quickfall to easily weaken enemies and go invisible at the same time without having to run into a pack of enemies to throw a smoke at ourselves to achieve the same effect. Overall, I think the biggest things Void Hunters are going to need to master is when to use your smoke on yourself or allies versus on an enemy based on your current cooldown situation, and knowing when to use the Quickfall invis to get the extra 2 seconds of invis versus playing it safe and using the ranged ability to grant yourself and teammates invisibility or to weaken enemies. As far as fashion goes, here is my what haters call basic Guardian. But would you object to such a stunning look for the sake of its commonness alone? You know why everyone looks like this? Because it looks great. Unfortunately, the Honors of the Nine shader that I use is no longer obtainable. However, you can get a similar look with the Bitter Pearl shader from the Vault of Glass, which I have a video tutorial of how to obtain linked in the description. So that's everything. Like I said previously, I plan to make a massive Void 3.0 Hunter guide in due time. Until then, let me know what else you would love to see in the comments below. And if you appreciate my channel and my content, I'd appreciate if you could support the channel by dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel. Make sure to also drop by my live stream to report all of your Void 3.0 Hunter findings so that together we can find out how to make this class as OP as possible. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.